Hello and welcome to the Heresy Lodge. I am your host, Dylan Cooper, the constant host over here.
Gavin Franklin.
Guys, we are here this week to review The Master of Mankind by Aaron Dembski Bowden.
Yeah, I am very excited about what your thoughts are. I haven't asked you yet, so I want to see how it ranks.
And I finished it this morning, so it's fresh in my mind. I'm curious what you're going to think about my thoughts. But before we get into all that, we have our normal shit to go through. As always, hit us up on the Discord. You can find that pinned to our Twitter at Heresy Lodge. You can always email us at theherесylodge@gmail.com. Check us out on YouTube. Our handle is also at the Heresy Lodge. Or you can just find the channel. I don't know how else you do that. Just look us up. We'll be there.
The channel. It's a channel.
Fucking use Google like everyone else, you fuckers. Find us, like us, do all the things. We also have some sick-ass merch. I'll leave the link in our show notes. Check it out. It looks cool. I'm currently drinking out of my Heresy Lodge glass. That's sick.
What are you drinking out of your Heresy Lodge glass?
So, good sir, I am drinking from Golden Road Brewing.
Ooh.
Right on.
Right on.
It's a 10 hop hazy IPA.
Sounds great. It's Golden Road Brewing.
It's actually really good. Not too hoppy. Good drinkable IPA. I mean, I like hazies. These are the only IPAs I actually enjoy. So
I am drinking Wild Side Winery Apple Pie Wine.
It looks like apples. It does look like apple cider or something. Actually, more like apple juice. Cider's darker than that.
Yeah, it tastes like syrup. So
yum. Can't wait for your stomach to feel good later.
I'm excited for it too.
Nothing like shitting my pants on air, guys.
Oh, jeez. All right, so Master of Mankind by ADB. Just give it to me straight. What are your thoughts?
So it's good. I actually do not have it in my top 5.
Wow. How dare you?
Probably hits top 10.
Why?
It's good. It's really good. I like it. It just doesn't do a lot for me.
Dude, you get talks with the Emperor. You get so many questions answered for you, or at least suggested for you.
No, I agree.
Really
it's
intriguing
good.
characters. You have humans. You have Mechanicum. It's good.
It's
good. Everything you want. I think you're just being a picky bitch.
No, so if I were to do my top 5 right now, okay, it would be a Betrayer.
Yeah,
Path of Heaven.
Betrayer.
I don't think so. See, what I like better about Betrayer is first off, there's the big betrayal at the end, right? And then you have
no, there's not. Oh yeah, I suppose.
Kinda. It's not a big betrayal.
It's a word bear betrayal. Who would have thought?
No, but the whole time, there's kind of this ride happening. You have Angrod falling. Everything that's leading up to is super fucking hype. Honestly, I never had a really big hype moment in this book. It was a solid ride the whole time.
The Emperor arrives off of the Golden Throne after sacrificing 1,000 psychers and then murders hundreds of demons.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, but that's what the Emperor's supposed to be, right? It makes me more ask the question, why didn't you just do that sooner?
Because he needed the psychers to basically take his place temporarily.
Yeah. Why did he do that sooner?
Because when he got up from the Golden Throne, right?
Yeah.
He had the demons chase him. They lost. He had to collapse the webway. The whole reason he was staying on the throne and doing that entire fight was because he was still hoping to finish the webway project.
Well, I'm saying
he gave up on.
They could have got probably about 10,000 psychers ready, and he could have went in there for 10 hours and just done some shit.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but maybe he didn't want to just sacrifice psychers.
He doesn't.
It kind of seemed like that was a push button in case of emergency. I think you're being a picky little bitch.
It's still good. It's a good book. I just don't have it in my top 5.
It's #1. Best book I've ever read.
It's good. I probably would have it ranked like
The Cynical.
6.
You put this below Scars.
So my top 5 would be Betrayer, Path of Heaven, Fulgrim.
First Heretic.
Yeah, First Heretic. Yeah, probably
Thousand
Scars.
Suns. Scars.
I'd have this above Thousand Suns for sure.
That's so crazy to me. I can't stand you right now.
I knew you would be upset.
I don't know how I'm even gonna finish this podcast with you. Don't even want to look at your face.
I mean, it's cool, and like having like the backstory of the Emperor is cool. Seeing them actually fight is cool. This is the second time we've got it. First time in like a real book.
You give a lot of insight to the Emperor as a person, and it answers a lot of questions, but also raises a lot of questions. It really paints the picture of the grim, dark future of 40K, in my opinion. Like, this goes to show all the things that led up to what we know now. And for instance, the Psychers, right? Like, you would get really good lines, a lot of moral questioning. You hate the Custodes, but you still think they're badass. There's a lot of just like really cool parts to the book that make me think. They make me compare the moments of the heresy to the 40K universe. They never come out and say the Emperor's a good guy. They never come out and say the Emperor's a bad guy. They let you decide, and it's a little ambiguous.
Did you read the like thing at the end that ADB wrote?
No.
So he like talks about like how he didn't want to like make the Emperor look like a good guy either. He was like, he actually was talking about how he and John French were painting together as they talked about POD and this. But he's like, you know, writing the Emperor's hard because I didn't want him to look like a good guy. I don't want him to be a bad guy. Like, he needs to be this like omni kind of being that has flaws.
I love ADB.
Oh, he's such a good writer.
He is so fucking good. I'm such a fan of his work. I really want to try to reach out to him multiple times, see what happens.
Yeah, well, I think he's off social media right now because I had him on Twitter, and I guess like during like, I think like what he does, like he really burns himself out when he writes his books, and then like I think he'll like looks too hard on what people say about them and like hits him mentally.
Which is interesting because he writes amazing books.
Yeah, but there's always fucking assholes out there.
Fair enough. I mean, we rip on the books, but I think we also make it very clear that like,
yeah, we rip on Graham all the time.
Yeah, well, Graham's phenomenal. He also has written
so
like
good.
My favorite novels. You know,
then he writes Outcast Dead.
Yeah, you know, and like it's one of those things where like, okay, you're an author. It's very similar to being an actor. You get your money from the public, which means you've opened yourself up to public criticism. That is exactly how that works. You know what I mean? That line of work is very different than what we would typically see in our lines of work, where our lines of criticism come from fellow colleagues or our bosses. They get their money from the public. So if you're going to be in that sphere, right, you have to be able to accept criticism. Or at least be able to block out the ridiculously negative criticism. That's a very important.
But I'm sure he also gets like DMs and shit too by people that's just like, kill yourself. And he's like, that's not cool, man.
That's so much. Yeah. You have to be able, I mean, that's what I'm saying though. Like, the world sucks. And I'm not trying to say that those people are right in what they're doing, but if you want to work in an area that is public facing, that's probably going to happen because people suck ass. You have to be able to be prepared for that. And like I said, the other thing too is the other reason we rip on the books is the fact of the matter is there's 54 of them. 52 of them.
And there's no way they're all going to be good.
Yeah, exactly. And like there are some books in comparison to the Horus Heresy, the rest of Horus Heresy, when you look at the entire sphere of it, where you're like, okay, this one is not as good at that one. I think Graham really dropped the ball with some continuity problems here. This is a little messed up. Why does so-and-so Arthur do this? Why did this person write Vulcan Lives 315 times in one novel? There are parts to do. But I think as a whole, like I had never read a book of the Horus Heresy and was like, oh, this is dog shit as a book itself. Like they're all good books. But there are some that are just better than others. I think some very
I don't know, man.
clear.
You really hated Mechanicum.
I hated Mechanicum because I hate the Mechanicum as a faction. Like they don't interest me. So it was a boring book to me. So that would never be a book I would pick up outside of the Horus Heresy. But I think the difference might be like short stories. That's a little bit different, right? Because the short stories are such a complicated thing in the 40K or in the Horus Heresy universe because it's like you have to do them, but they're also terrible. But some of them are great. But you just have to like be in the mindset for a short story, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, ADB, phenomenal.
So before we get into this, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Before the Emperor started staying at Terra, how the fuck did the Astronomicon work?
What do you mean?
There had to have been something, right? Or were they just following the Emperor the whole time?
You mean like before, like the first time the people went out?
No, like before the Emperor decided to leave the Crusade. So I mean, they were using warp travel the whole fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
So was the Emperor just like, all right, well, I'm over here, figure out where I am, and then you can figure out where you're going? Because that has a lot of questions, right? Like,
that's an interesting
what
one.
is the point of the Golden Throne if they were able to use the Astronomicon when him not there? Question mark.
That's a weird one.
I literally thought about that for like the last like 80 pages of the book. I'm like, why the fuck is he just sitting there like a pussy? Also, with all those storms and everything, they can't even see the Astronomicon. So what really is the point of him sitting there?
Okay.
My camera just disconnected.
Oh, okay. I was scared there. I don't
there
care.
We go. I'm back.
I don't care about your face. I just care about your voice. Plus, I don't even want to look at you right now.
I understand. I don't like looking at me either.
So if I go to this very educational piece of Reddit post.
Oh, you went to Reddit. I was like within the wiki.
No. No, Reddit's wrong. Let's go here. Let's go.
I have already declared you wrong.
We're going to go to the wiki. Okay. The Astronomicon itself is actually powered not necessarily by the Emperor, but by the Adeptus Astronomica, which is a group of psychers, sanctioned psychers that power it, right? Although the Emperor does not provide the psychic energy of the beacon, only he has the psychic control required to handle that energy and direct it across the galaxy. So I guess the Emperor doesn't have to be at Terra in order for the Astronomicon to be directed. But the Adeptus Astronomica is what produces the power for the Astronomicon, and then they funnel it through the Emperor, who projects it.
Yeah, my camera's having a fucking meltdown right now.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's literally disconnected and reconnected like 12 times. I just keep hearing it beep. What is happening?
I don't know.
Anyway, so well, this is another shimmy. Continue. I'm gonna unplug this and plug it back in.
Okay. I'm just very interested in your question now too, because it seems to be a piece of lore that is maybe not answered just super well. Because how do they direct it to him? Maybe they just send the energy through the warp to the Emperor, and the Emperor collects it and then guides it out. But yeah, it doesn't actually work as like a beacon to the Emperor. It works as a beacon to Terra. It's back on. Yeah.
Man, everything just went to shit for me. My fucking mic turned off, my camera turned on, and I was like, ah.
Your whole setup, man.
What? How did you end there?
So basically, like, it's a beacon not towards the Emperor; it's a beacon towards Terra. So the Emperor funnels it, It amplifies the power. But the Astronomicon are the ones that do it. But what I find interesting is like, how did they travel before the Astronomicon? So this is an interesting one. During the age of technology. Oh, really? Its functions, the Astronomicon didn't exist, and its functions were fulfilled by the pharaohs.
What?
Yeah, apparently in the age of technology, the pharaohs was used as the Astronomicon.
Okay, interesting. But this kind of goes back to the point of why the fuck is he just sitting on the chair? Also, we know all the warp storms are happening as well.
Mm-hmm.
People can't even see the fucking Astronomicon.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the fucking point of him sitting in the chair?
Well, okay, listen. This is what I said, right? So when Magnus broke into the webway, if Trade Walker's here, he'd be so pissed at you. When Magnus broke into the webway, he caused the webway to become unstable and it began to collapse. So the reason the Emperor is sitting in the chair is to use his psychic might to prevent the webway from collapsing.
Why can't he do that while in there?
Because the chair is like what's amplifying his power. Like that, he has to dedicate all of his power to keeping the webway from collapsing. Like he can't just like get up because as soon as he goes in the fight, it's just going to collapse.
Okay,
which is why he needed those 1,000 strikers.
We know now, at the end of this book, it collapses. They blow it up.
Yeah.
Why did he get back in the chair at the end?
He didn't get back in the chair at the end.
Oh.
He was thinking about
it
of the
heresy.
He stopped. That is what I don't know. I think that's what we'll find out, right? Like we'll have to figure that out. I think that has more to do with sustaining his life than it does.
He's a fucking perpetual.
Well, we know that there are weapons out there that can kill perpetuals. We have an entire 3 books written about it. Vulcan got stabbed by one, and he died for like 2 whole novels.
Then what's the point of him being there then? Like, just let the guy die.
Well, what do you mean? Like in 40K?
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's a definite like question that people ask all the time. It's like a fan theory out there. It's like maybe they just need to like let him die and he'll come back. But the people are too scared to let the Emperor die. But maybe it won't work. You know, there's like all these like weird questions out here.
I would rather have the memory of a dead man than the memory of some fucked up looking skeleton thing sitting on a chair.
Well, that's the problem is the reason that they're really concerned about the Emperor dying is what we talked about earlier, is the fact that he funnels the Astronomicon. So without him,
but they don't even I mean, they needed to direct it, but they don't really need him.
They do, because they can't even like a group of psychers doing the Astronomicon, right? They can't like actually direct the light towards Terra, so they would go into another age of darkness. So the Emperor,
this doesn't make sense to me, right? Because they're on Terra. If they were somewhere else and pointing the light towards Terra, that would make sense. They're literally there. Where is this? Doesn't it just go straight up? Like where is this light going? Like, this Terra should be brighter no matter what. Right? That's how a fucking light bulb works. They put the light bulb over there, and guess what? That's where the light's at.
Look.
Does it need a better nightshade? Is that the problem?
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I can give you a scientific explanation of their psychic powers in this fantasy universe, Dylan.
Look,
what I need you to understand is the Astronomicon is produced and then funneled through the Emperor, and only with the Emperor being
allegedly
alive can it still exist. And you're over here like, show me the science.
This is all
it's the warp. And there is no science behind it.
They haven't tried the hypothesis that it would be fine without him.
They haven't. Well,
I'm still convinced that they were just fine when he was traveling around, dicking around, killing orcs.
Well, yeah. So what they're expecting us to believe is when he was dicking around killing orcs.
I don't believe it.
You're being such a negative Nancy. My frustration levels with you.
We haven't even started reviewing the book yet.
I'm
We need to
gonna need
review
some
the
more
book.
wine.
Well, look, I'm just asking the questions. All right.
You know what? I feel okay. Ask away because you lost.
Where's Graham? I'm bringing Graham back in here. I gotta have questions answered here.
You know, I feel okay. You lost every single game last weekend. You were the only person in the tournament to go 0-3. So
not only that, but I also found out I handicapped myself too.
Yeah, you do that a lot.
You know, I'm just trying to give the opposition some help. Everyone else needs it but me.
All I'm saying is, okay, when it comes to this story, I think we can probably assess that the Emperor, without the Emperor, the Astronomicon doesn't work, because during this time that he's sitting on the throne, using his power to hold up the webway instead of project the Astronomicon, people can't find it. It's been like a whole main story. We can't find the Astronomicon. That's why they needed the Pharaohs.
Well,
right?
It was also because Magnus came and fucked up the Astronomicon.
The Astronomicon isn't like a box.
They were talked about in Outcast Dead that like all the psychers like fucking blew up.
Yes. Wait, so I don't think that is the Astronomica. What are the people that send the message?
Those
message.
are those are the astropaths, but like there was
Astro,
like
yeah. So
there was like a subgroup of them that like ran the Astronomicon.
Yeah, that's the Adeptus Astronomica. So yes, Magnus, 2 years later though that we know, did kill.
This could have been 35 years ago. We have no idea.
Actually knows. So they did kill the Astronomica, but we actually are led to believe at this point that the Astronomica wasn't working for those entire 2 years because the Emperor was on the Golden Throne. And he was using his power instead of projecting the Astronomicon to hold up the warp, which would make more sense because people couldn't find the Astronomicon right after Isfahan.
Well, there was also a fuck ton of warp storms.
Yeah. Yep.
Either way, we need to start fucking reviewing this book.
It gets confusing. The Astronomicon is confusing, but
it's fake. Until I see the calculus behind this, I don't believe it.
Okay.
Not logical at all.
So we get introduced to this book by actually being introduced to the story of the Emperor as a child. And like I said in the preview, there's a lot of questions behind whether the flashbacks we see are real or not. It even mentions in this flashback, Ra, who is the character that he's speaking to. It's like, is this even...
we get introduced to Ra's mother.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which
Constantine
also makes me hate Terra more.
So she stole water.
Yeah, and the Custodes come and kill her.
The Custodes.
Like, what the fuck? Did she steal the goddamn ocean? And the Emperor was like, how dare you take my ocean?
Well, what's interesting is she admitted to a swath of other crimes. Yeah, she
was like, wait a minute. You're killing me because I stole water?
Wow.
Fuck. Yeah. All right.
I mean, Terra is a shithole. I think everyone has agreed to that. And water is obviously an incredibly precious commodity at the time, since it was a bunch of irradiated deserts for a long time. So I can kind of see it. Yeah. I don't know how they're even alive at this point. So she stole water. She died. They took her son, which was Ra, who is now in charge of the war in the webway because the other two custodes that were in charge previously died. And we open up to him talking to the Emperor as a child. And the Emperor is presented as like just any regular child and like ancient, like Mesopotamian times.
Supposedly.
Okay? Yeah. So if this is like true, then we know a few different things. One, the Emperor is not infinitely old, right? The emperor was born as a human, and he even mentions that he had a father and an uncle.
Yeah, his uncle killed his father, right?
Yes. So he then killed the uncle.
Yeah, he was
with his-
like 8.
Yeah. So this is an interesting concept because it rules out a lot of different theories behind who the emperor is. We know he was born to human. We know he probably is not a Xeno, so he's not like a great old one or anything like that. It does seem that he's not like a warp entity, but it's still possible that they did some shamanistic rituals during his birth to make him a psychically enhanced
During
person.
the author thing, ADB actually mentions like maybe the emperor was created by shamans. Like, who knows? I wanted to keep it as ambiguous as possible.
He did keep it ambiguous, but I do think he cut off a couple of lingering theories behind what the emperor is. And of course, he didn't at the end of court because Ra was like, "Is any of this even real?" And the emperor didn't answer, which is a real dick move.
Honestly, the emperor's an asshole the whole way.
The emperor is a huge asshole. But what's important to these flashbacks too, like I said in the preview, is they kind of are in the eye of the beholder, right? Like whatever the person wants to see or wants to hear, that's kind of what the emperor sounds like or says or does in their mind.
When you mentioned that made me really think about like when we first meet Arkham Land and he talks about his experience with Angron. Yeah, I was like, huh. Maybe the Emperor's not actually like that, but then like the more I think about the Emperor and like how like other times he has like interactions, I'm like, nah, he's a dickhole.
He is definitely a dickhole, but yeah, we'll get to that scene later because it is a very interesting scene. I'm glad we're not doing shots again.
Yeah, thank God.
But so ADB explains that Ra was shown that because the Emperor wanted to reveal to him that that was the first time that he realized that the world needed ruling, like humanity needs ruling. Sure, that was a bit of a stretch for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think every group needs a leader, right? Like, or nothing's going to get fucking done.
Yeah.
But his reasoning was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, would humanity at this stage be better off with only one figurehead? I think maybe not. There's a lot of different cultures, a lot of different ideas. We're not nearly as unified to be united under one banner, but maybe they would. I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said about the fact the Emperor didn't reveal himself till like after Old Night, the long night. So it's like, obviously he had this idea, but he didn't make it go to fruition until much later in his life. So
then we get kind of. He should have been pretty fucking powerful his like entire life. I mean, we even had the story in Mechanicum where he kills the fucking dragon during
allegedly.
Yeah, medieval times, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. Then we get kind of introduced to the war in the webway. We talked about this in the previous episode. Basically, the Custodes and the Mechanicum and the Sisters of Silence are all fighting a war in the webway against demons that Magnus let in, along with now traitor legions, which is strange because we haven't seen anything about that.
And it's the World Eaters that are in there.
Yeah, the World Eaters, the Word Bearers.
Of any of the fucking legions that really throw in there, the World Eaters just makes me laugh because they're probably just like, where the fuck? All right, there's shit to kill. All right.
They probably don't even know that they're there. They're just blacked out the whole time.
Apparently there's Eldar in there that just like run away and hide.
Yeah, let's mention very briefly. They were concerned for a while that they had to fight the Eldar, but the Eldar said, fuck that, and just disappeared.
Bro, there's like 6 of us. We don't give a shit.
The Eldar are briefly mentioned in a fight that does happen, and the Eldar are involved later.
Yeah.
As kind of a cool little side story. But one thing that is frustrating, well, not frustrating, one thing they didn't talk about and they refuse to talk about in the Horus Heresy because it's from the perspective of humans and they don't give a shit, is the fact that the people living in the Webway are Dark Eldar and the people living outside the Webway are Eldar. And they're two very, very different groups of people.
That is very different.
Yeah, they don't care. They just see them as Eldar. And their entire defense is in an ancient abandoned Eldar city. I don't remember the name of it.
The Forbidden City or something like that.
They call it the Impossible City. The Impossible City. It's got like a name. I don't remember the name of it. Their entire plan is to hold that for as long as possible.
Yeah. So also, the Emperor, one thing we should mention is that the tunnel from Terra is like a Mechanicum-made one.
Yeah, well, I think the whole thing is the Webway. The Mechanicum have just made themselves a part of it.
Which something I also thought was kind of weird, right? Like in the Webway, they talk about how like their like meters and stuff were off and like time and shit like that. Makes me think like you could never actually have humanity in there to like survive.
I don't think that the Emperor was planning to put humanity in the Webway. I think he was planning to utilize it as a
use himself.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that was a plan. Although that is something to bring up because he does talk about later in another vision with Ra his like plan, and it's very confusing to me.
Yes.
What he was actually planning on doing. It's very strange.
I think his plan was actually there was no plan. It was just one of those things like, oh, look at this thing.
Well, it kind of seemed like his plan was like murder, like genocide.
All the psychers. Yeah.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
He's a little fucked up.
Yeah. He never like came out and said that. It just seemed to be suggesting that.
Very hard.
Yeah. So basically the Emperor enacts a specific and thing like, oh, dude, this forbidden code that only the Sisters of Silence know. So Ra sends Diocletian to go to the surface with some sisters in order to get reinforcements, and they can enact their little sacred thing. So they get reinforcements from the Mechanicum. They get reinforcements from they're offered reinforcements from the Imperial Fists, but they refuse for multiple reasons. And I think the big reason is because they don't trust the Legionnaires, which is really dumb.
Yeah. I mean, we've had this whole thing, like a bunch of short stories, right? Where something happens and the Imperial Fist like, what the fuck? The Coaster's like, well, fuck you. We do what we want.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, I'm really trying to defend everything here. At least talk to me, for the love of Christ.
The Imperial Fists really seem to be one-minded, defend Terra, do this. Roquildorn wants to provide assistance, but the Custodes seem to have this. They're very cocky. They don't think the Legionnaires are worth it. It's incredibly annoying. One thing I dislike about this is they're fighting next to the Sisters of Silence, which I get are badasses, but they're still humans.
Yeah, and I still understand like the Sisters of Silence when it comes to like being protectors of the Emperor.
Yeah,
because there should be like, I mean, like they say like a moment like where like one of them like sees the Emperor, and like I do not imagine the Emperor to be a badass after like how like they described him. Like I imagine like a normal sized dude on a just like this sucks.
Yeah, well, the sisters are different from everyone else, and the reason they're there to defend the Emperor is because they're not affected by psychic potential, which is really important to think about when it comes to them looking at the Emperor. They kind of shut down whatever he's projecting.
He's actually just like some ugly ass motherfucker.
It does. I think that scene right there does go to prove the fact that the Emperor is in great pain. He's not this gallant, insane, badass motherfucker. I think he's just an insanely powerful psyker.
Yeah, which makes me like Macador has to be super powerful, and we just like never get to see it.
Potentially. So yeah, the sisters, the reason they're there to defend the Emperor is from psychic threats. You know, we kind of heard about that in the short story, but the idea is, yeah, the Custodes can take down Titans, But like one psyker could fuck up the entire thing if they just use their powers in the correct way. And the sisters are there to shut that down. That's the only reason they're there. That's why they used them against the Thousand Suns, and it was incredibly effective.
It's one of those things where like we really need to write something that kind of makes this less OP.
Yeah. So as they're getting their reinforcements, we get introduced to Arkin Land, who is a Mechanicum archaeologist, and it does talk about how he invented the Land Raider and the Land Speeder and the Land Crawler. No, he didn't invent the Land Speeder. He was frustrated that they called it the Land Speeder because it's sped over land, but it's not. But then you have the Land Raider, which was actually named after him. But anyway, if we get a flashback to the first time Arkin Land met the Emperor, I know there's a lot of flashbacks we're missing, but I think we can kind of go back and talk about them as we go through the story quickly. And that's when the Emperor's trying to remove the nails from Angron. What a fucking scene.
It is a scene. And it makes me... So the thing about this is he refers to Angron as a number. And he goes through the story that we talked about in the preview about like, oh, like the reason they call me father is because like I fucking made them, but like I don't see them that way. They're fucking tools to me.
Compares them to Pinocchio, how Pinocchio called Geppetto father, that kind of stuff.
I don't really get though, like if that's how he sees them, why he just doesn't kill Angron. Like I know like his like whole point was like, oh, because like yes, he can still like do things, but are the what the fuck were they called before? Something hounds.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember. Warhounds?
Yeah, the Warhounds. I think you're right. Like, were they really like
useless?
Yeah, did they get better with Angron? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, like at that point, just let them, just try to remove them and let them die.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions behind this. So, like we said, the important part about this interaction is Arkin Land is of the Mechanicum. He's very cold cut logic, even though he does not replace a lot of his parts with like how the Mechanicum does. He believes that in the purity of humanity, which is very interesting, but he is still Mechanicum. Like, don't get that wrong. He is still calculating. Everything he does is really about what am I even saying here? It's about like cold cut decision making. There's no emotion involved. So when he speaks to the Emperor, he views the Emperor as the Omnissiah. And when the Emperor talks to him, it's very cold. It's very calculating. There's no emotion. He gives very direct things, and the way he talks too, specifically his voice, is emotionless. And Arkin Land basically compares it to like that he hasn't even found voice inhibitors that make voices that emotionless, which is different than what we've experienced the Emperor speaking in the past, where it inspires emotion from people. So I think this is a very evident situation where the Emperor is using his psychic powers to come off in the way that the person wants to view him.
I still don't really understand like why they consider him the Omnissiah, because the Omnissiah is supposed to be the machine god, right? Like, I guess like in Mechanicum, like we had like he healed what's his face's leg, like cool, but that doesn't fucking scream like machine spirit to me.
Again, I think it comes down to exactly what I'm talking about, is the fact that the Emperor projects a presence of what you want to see.
He's a fucking like giant like spider robot. Like they're gonna fucking believe this. These idiots.
That's what the Mechanicum believe, right? But
turns out the Emperor's actually the biggest troll.
I think so, man. I think so. So you have the conversation where he compares Angron to just a number, but I think that's what Arkin Land wanted him to do.
Yeah, like when you talked about that in the preview, I was like, oh, that would be like what a Mechanicum would want to hear. But at the same time, I mean, he kind of just threw away the Thunder Warriors, so maybe he thinks about the Primarchs no differently, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I
does he
mean,
really give a shit about the custodes? Like with what he did with Raw at the end here? Like, I don't think so.
yeah,
He's
I
kind of a sociopath.
he absolutely is. And some other flashbacks we're going to go through, I think he's a hypocritical sociopath, and doesn't he doesn't appear in this book in any way, shape, or form to have desire to help anyone but himself and the vision that he has for humanity. Like we said, there's a scene with the Custode and the Blood Angel walking through all of the refugees that have made it to Terra. And the Custode's disgusted by them. And the Blood Angel's trying to say, this is literally what we're fighting for. Like, this is the point.
I will say this is probably one of my favorite scenes of all the books.
Yeah. And the Custode's like, no, I'm fighting for the Emperor. And the Blood Angel's like, I'm fighting for the Emperor's vision, and it's these people. And the Custode's like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, I'm not computing because the Emperor.
But honestly, that's probably like how the Emperor sees it too. Like, does he actually give a shit about the people?
Yeah.
He says he does, but all of his action says I actually don't.
Yeah. And you wonder, you really do wonder, like, how does it all work? You think of Euphrati Keeler. The Emperor definitely helped her. Definitely helped her.
Yeah.
Why?
Hell, you even have like in Deliverance Lost when he helped out Korax to get into the fucking thing.
Mm-hmm. You have his lieutenant who's getting those visions. He believes they're from the Emperor. Are they? I don't know. I mean, I think he's probably just psychic, but there there are definitely moments where you wonder what the fuck the Emperor is on about, because he's really cold and calculating in a book like this. But you read like The Last Church, and he seems to want the regular everyday person to believe in his vision, where here he doesn't give a fuck. I don't know. It's a hard one.
Because like when you think about like things too, like if you think about like Game of Thrones and stuff, like sometimes like they would have like the king like walk through like the common folk to be like, this is like who you like is your leader, like like you never have the Emperor like doing that, like when he's at Terra. He's literally just fucking holed up in a tunnel.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So this is why I say we do, because I think the bulk of the conversation is going to be about the flashbacks. So I say we start going through those, because that is going to be where all of the talk comes from. So
yeah. So warning, we're going to go over time here.
Yeah, we're probably going to go over time a little bit, but not by a lot. It's already 5:24, so don't have that much time, but we'll try and go over.
I got an hour, buddy. We're good.
Okay, good deal. Okay, so let me pour some more wine.
Yeah,
when it comes to,
I'm about to open my third can.
We had that first flashback where it talks about Ra meeting the Emperor as a child. Then we have a second flashback, and this is one that I find so interesting because it's in the middle of the reunification wars when the Emperor is rising to power and he's fighting another warlord. Oh, this one was so good. So many great scenes. I don't know how this isn't like your first. This just made me think, like I'm just turning all kinds of different pieces. So you have a moment where the Emperor has defeated this army, and Ra's with him with the rest of the Custodes that are defeating the enemies, and the warlord is being pinned down by the Custodes. And the Emperor talks to Ra about the warlord's being. And he says, hey, this guy used to be a priest, a religious priest that walked around, and he started giving people like food, water, shelter, all that stuff. And they were all gifts from chaos. And at first, it cost him nothing, and he gained followers. But as time went on, the requirements for his groups to survive became greater, and the sacrifices that the chaos gods required became more. So, like, he basically was leading an insane cult that sacrificed people on a daily basis in order to continue his power, because the idea is this person believed that his vision was worth the sacrifice. Does that remind you of anybody we know?
Well, I mean, it's even worse, right? Because for the Emperor, we know it's 1,000 cycles a day.
Mm-hmm.
A day. First
Exactly.
off, the math is insane. I've been thinking about this. All right, so like,
I think it's more than 1,000.
how many psychers do you think could be on Terra? Right. I mean, it's such a like a minuscule number, and you're going to planet after planet, probably around like the same number, collecting, and then you have to go out there, get all these people, bring them all back, and you get that 1,000. The numbers are pretty rough.
I feel like, yeah, as far as statistics
Like, think of
go,
like today,
there's
like
no way.
who, like if there was anyone in the world that you could think would have been a psyker, like it'd be like Houdini, right? Like, how many Houdinis have there been? Chris Angel, 2 in the last 100 years, or like probably the most like famous.
It's 10,000 a day now.
10. Okay, that's fucking, the numbers don't make sense.
Yeah,
Mason,
so think about
the
this.
numbers.
If we think about this, right? This person, the Emperor's mad at him because he's sacrificing innocent lives in order to continue to pursue what he believes is the right thing for humanity. It's exactly what the Emperor does on a much larger scale.
And one of these sub chapters, I will call it, I don't know what else you would call it, there is a scene where there's a little girl on this planet, and Sisters of Silence come and she's running away, and they capture her. And then later on, you find out that she's the first psyker that's sacrificed. This little fucking like 10-year-old girl.
Yep.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because the Emperor thought this, right? You know that the Emperor, I mean, he was the one that gave the order. This was a plan. This was the whole reason for the black ships to begin with. This was like years in the making. So the idea that the Emperor never put like 1 and 2 together and said, oh shit, like you're telling me I'm just like a warlord that's conquering places and sacrificing people in order to continue my own dream and my own vision?
Well, I mean, also like that leader that's like dying, it's like, you're no fucking different than me.
Yeah, and he's right. He's absolutely right. Now, where does the difference lie? Okay. And this is the only thing I can think of. This is where the difference comes into place. You have to think about the differences between our universe and the universe of Warhammer. In Warhammer, the warp exists. So the only being, or the only mission of the Emperor that we can surmise at this point isn't really for humanity. I think it's to beat the warp. That's why he wanted to kill the aliens. That's why he wanted to unite humanity. He does make that mention in this scene, right? He's like, the reason I wanted to unite all of humanity because I didn't want a single entity left to spoil it, right? To mess up. So his whole job is to destroy the warp and permanently put an end to what that warlord, like that person ever being able to come back, like that same type of character from ever being able to come back. But he somewhere along the path became that person and he didn't recognize it. And maybe he's okay with being that person as long as his mission is to beat the warp, right? Where the person sacrificing all those people to feed his community, he's doing it to feed the community and getting the thing from the warp. Now, this is another thing that blows my mind about this whole thing, is the Emperor also used warp power to create the Primarchs.
Yeah. Also, I mean, so the Tyranids are like not relevant at this point, but do you think he knew about the Tyranids at all?
I don't know.
Because that's like another thing. Like, I know like the Tyranids aren't fucking like chaos driven, right? But they bring carnage and everything else, which is at least Khorne.
Possibly.
I mean, I feel like the Pharos blowing up, that could easily be like, oh, yeah, that's totally a Zinch thing. Like, you can make up anything for any of the Chaos Gods.
Yeah. So that's one of the visions we had. That really pointed out to me that he was a hypocrite. But then we have another vision later on where Ra is basically flying through space and seeing time unfold throughout the universe as all of these various planets get conquered and destroyed. And essentially the Emperor is going over like his entire plan, and he arrives at an Eldar planet to describe what happened with the bringing of Slaanesh. He said the Eldar were so close by inventing the webway, but they never completely severed their ties from Psychers and the warp. What does that mean to you, Dylan?
I mean, honestly, it doesn't mean much to me because I feel like
the Emperor
humanity
wouldn't
sever the Emperor, who's the greatest psyker of all of them.
Interesting.
From everything else.
More hypocrisy. That's really weird. So, if we think on the fact that when the Emperor says we need to sever our ties from the warp, it kind of, to me, I don't know, sounds like genocide.
100%. And it talks about when he makes the decision about like Nike is like, the reason I did this was because we need to be away from all this bullshit because it's connected to the warp. I'm like, bro, you and your right-hand man are like the top 2 psychers in the galaxy. What the fuck do you mean?
We know from demonology that Nikeia was planned for a long time. So the Emperor creates Magnus. We know that he was creating Magnus to sit on the Golden Throne, to sustain the webway. But that was a tool, so the Emperor didn't have to do that, like a backup.
Well, hell, we had 2 thrones, because the other throne was in Path of Heaven.
Yeah.
So like, was he also going to sit?
Well, I think the one in Path of Heaven was
that might have been like a demo or something.
Facility, yeah. But it's very obvious to me that the Emperor, at this point at least, doesn't give a shit at the bare minimum to the Thousand Suns. Like, he doesn't give a fuck about the Thousand Suns because it's very clear that the Emperor
We've done that for a long time.
Yeah, the Emperor planned to annihilate Psychers, and he happened to make a whole legion of Psychers. So
they were just gonna be. I mean, realistically, I mean, how much more psychic energy does a Thousand Sun give off more than a human? So maybe for like the chair.
Give him the chair.
Like, it's like, oh, we'll sacrifice 10 instead of 1,000. Like, I don't know what like the difference of power is, but like there's probably some ratio.
Maybe that's the reason why he's okay with sacrificing these Psychers in the chair, because they were gonna die anyway in his mind. Like, they're part of the plan to die, so they might as well die for my cause. Fucked up, bro.
Awesome. Yes, especially since it's really just so he doesn't have to sit in a chair.
We have a really good insight though into his omnipotence. We kind of have it confirmed that the Emperor is not omnipotent and he is not all-knowing. So Ra brings up the fact that he should have had the hindsight or the ability to know what was going to happen, and the Emperor gives us an analogy in one of his visions that, like, hey, like, you see that island over there? Yeah, I want to swim to the island, but what could happen? You know, I don't know anything about what's going to happen in between me getting to that island and from where I start now. So there could be monsters that kill you, rocks that you don't see, storms, massive waves that come out of nowhere. You could start your way there and find on your halfway there that there's an island that's better. You know, he has the same cognitive capacity for seeing the future that we do.
Yeah, I mean, which has also been explained before too. Like, it's like there are several different paths. I think it was Sanguinius that explained this. Like, yeah, this could happen, but also like I've seen it like 2 other ways. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, just because I see the future doesn't necessarily mean A, that it's guaranteed, and B, all the events that will transpire to get there.
Although
Like,
there's counter curves like, I already saw this shit. Like it's
yeah.
fine.
And then the lion's like, oh my God, he did. And then St.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
oh
Hey, don't
yeah,
kill
I
me.
guess. Yeah, we need to get to Terra, right? Yeah.
Like it's
This makes
fucking
sense.
Conrad's sort of like, holy shit, I thought he was actually going to kill me. Holy shit.
Yeah, so it does seem though that the Emperor does have the ability to see the future. He just doesn't know how long it's going to take to get there. He doesn't know what's going to inspire or aspire like in between. He doesn't know if he's going to have another vision of the future and then it changes. So there's so many different pieces that are there. It's really, really cool to know the insight of the Emperor's powers and where their limits are. He is limited.
Yep.
So that's one vision there. We also, at the same time, I think it's kind of important to talk about this demon that's coming into the warp.
Yes, the
Destroyer
of empires.
Of empires, yes. Destroyer of empires.
Yes, it was made from the first murder.
Which was highly suggested to be like Cain and Abel, but not really. I don't know. It was very strange how that worked.
It was. I was so confused. Like it also like made it seem like the Emperor caused the first murder, but I was like that doesn't make sense either because that wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was really weird, but yes, I agree.
So the first murder occurs, but the demon for the first murder doesn't get created until the War in the Webway happens thousands of years later because time doesn't work the same in the warp. And on top of that, the demon is created from the act that created it. I thought they were going to do like a real corn route.
Not at all, though.
Yeah, not at all. It just turns out that, murder and fratricide, not fratricide, is it fratricide? Yeah, fratricide is like the concept of it is what destroys humanity and destroys like civilization. So this entire like demon's purpose is it's basically there to kill like the Emperor because that would destroy humanity.
Yeah, destroy the biggest empire at this point.
Yeah. So he's also stalking through the warp, trying to get to the Emperor, assassinate him. That's what's happening there. So
what was really weird that they kept calling him like Murder, and I only could think about the demon Nemesis, who was also called Murder.
He was called Murder.
I'm pretty sure, like 80-90% sure.
One of the things that really made me laugh in this is like all the demons. It talks about how the demons like shout the same thing over and over again, but some of them like know Gothic, and so what they're shouting is their name. And it just made me think of like Pokemon, like
Pikachu.
Oh, it's a fucking demon! Shoot it! Shoot it! So these guys are like all these like I just imagine all these bloodletters walking around like John,
Steve.
Somebody kill that thing! Jesus Christ!
It's so goddamn annoying. Put it down. Also, like another thing, like I agree that it seemed like really Korn-esque because his whole thing is murdering. Yeah, and we had the World Eaters as well in there, so it was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. No, not at all.
Didn't go down the Korn route. So if we go back to the flashbacks, I'm trying to think. We had the one. Is there one more we're missing?
I
think that's probably it.
There is one more with Ra and the Emperor. I'm trying to think what it was.
I think like you have the one where they're in space. You have the one where he's a child. You have the one where things are being conquered. You have the one with Angron and Harkin Land. I think that's probably it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So while all of these like backstories and everything is going on, we do get a cool little. We get a story with the Night House being rebuilt. Doesn't really matter too much the story. They're there. They fight things. Although ADB, in my opinion, writes like Quentin Tarantino does movie scripts. You know, like any writer could be like, okay, the custodes are going to go to a prison and unlock somebody who was traitor, and then they turn loyal, and they're going to be a new Night House, right? They could have written that. Instead, ADB goes to an entire description about this person being in prison for like 2-3 months, and like how she's getting starved on accident because a servitor was forgotten about.
Well, yeah, like the servitor died, and like no one knew that, like no one gave a shit that this was even happening.
It's like, and it's just like, fucked. Yeah, like what? Like, does it pertain to the story? No, but what a cool, like, it lets you know more about the character that you're about to get involved in.
Yeah, and like I was so interested in like her, and like just originally their Night House was attached to the Empress children, and then the Empress children became Empress children, and they're like,
whoa, got a dildo out one night that was a little too big, and they were like, all right, we gotta bounce.
Whoa, we should have trying to fuck the night, guys. This is weird.
Get this fucking snake thing off of me. Jesus
God damn it.
Oh my God.
This is too weird for us. It's like, let's bounce. And like we find out that like, although this was something I started thinking of. So they talk about how after they left to Terra to turn themselves in, the Emperor's children like destroyed their planet.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's a very Imperial-esque to also have destroyed it and be like, oh yeah, it was totally the Emperor's children.
Yeah, so
we have pictures. I was like, oh, that's weird.
You just see like a picture with like a floating asteroid, spray painted. Fulcrum was here.
Yeah, it's totally the Emperor's children that killed this planet. Totally not us thinking you're traitor. I don't know. But
Fulcrum was here. All right, I'm convinced.
But I mean, seriously, though, like, would it be very like Imperial-esque to have tricked them to do that?
Yeah,
like the planet might not even be gone, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's gone.
Oh yeah, we have so much evidence.
We're gonna need you in the webway. What is that? I can't tell you, but you'll be there.
You're gonna travel 12 hours down some stairs, through a big tunnel into another tunnel, and then you're not gonna know where the fuck you are, and that's when you know you're at the right spot.
The other portion that they're recruiting is the Mechanicum. They need a leader. So they create the Archimandrite. Again, like the writing's just so good. Like the creation of the Archimandrite, it's so well done. Like I'm on the edge of my seat. It's
also something we wrote about. The demon is like transferring between like people and things like that.
He can like possess people, yeah. So the Archimandrite is created. I was thinking it was going to be like a spider thing.
I also thought spider thing.
Did you look it up?
No.
It's like
not a spider?
No, it's like a big golem.
Oh God, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's really weird. So the Archimandrite's created. I don't know why they needed. I would have preferred them build like a
You need a better map. And only the Archimandrite can hold the map.
But in order to get the Archimandrite, the Sisters of Silence needed to make a deal with the Mechanicum to basically say that they promised that they would try and take back the
tunnel
Mars.
That leads to Mars.
Yeah, there's a tunnel. I can't remember the something path, enlightened path. I don't know.
Artisan path, maybe.
Yeah, it leads through the webway to Mars from Terra. And the Sisters of Silence like, yeah, totally, for sure.
Yeah, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah, it's in our plans. Like that is the ultimate goal, right? So they send everyone down into the webway, and really, it's a war. It's one of the best written battles I've ever had. Like they're retreating. People are getting possessed by the demons. It's the best Titan battle I've ever read. That was fucking awesome.
Honestly, Still disinterested in it.
Dude, I thought it was great. Like, this person went in to kill 2 Titans, but the other Titan that was her ally was possessed by the demon. So she thought she saved them.
The idea was cool, and like how like it came back to life, like was actually dead, but like, man, Titan battle was a fucking Titan battle. I'm just like, I still don't understand the sizes of them.
Yeah, I just think of big robots fighting each other, but they also.
Oh, I do too. But then like I see like a fucking like, oh, we have knights too, and these spider things. Like, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I think out of all the Titan battles that was described so far, this was probably my favorite.
I think it was the most fair one because, like, in Betrayer we had like
one Titan
random
17.
Well, it's like 17 legionaries, and they took it over. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
so,
it was
like,
really dumb.
This is definitely the most fair battle because at least it's Titan versus Titans.
Yeah. So in the end, when they're ordering the retreat from the city, the part that's really kerfuffle is the Archimandrite, who is disappointed that they're abandoning this hallway, decides to pull back the Mechanicum and attempt to take the hallway anyway with the Mechanicum forces and abandon the rest of the Imperial forces. And it was very funny.
Dude, everybody got fucked up.
Yeah,
like,
so
I don't know if like the map was wrong or what, but like someone was a shitty leader.
The Archimandrite was supposed to be mapping the webway, and I don't think it worked.
No, because we have one group that ends up in a fucking
Craft
Eldar
world.
cemetery, and the fucking statues come alive and kill them all, which is kind of what happens in Thousand Suns.
They actually end up in a craft world.
Yeah, it was kind of was like they're like cemetery.
Yeah, well, they go through the webway and then they get teleported to like a craft world, which is like a spaceship in a random area of space with like millions of Eldar on it. And it's like 20 Mechanicum forces, and all of a sudden they're like statues, but they're really like
but they're like their versions of Titans.
Yeah, they're like, oh,
that's at least how they were in Thousand Suns.
We're gonna have to kill you.
You are not Eldar.
Mechanicum were like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah, we have like some like the other like, oh god, craft world, and like there's the one like we must continue, like oh god.
Then there was one, I remember it went to like one person who just got lost in the mist. They just like disappeared and died. And then there was one that was like fighting, and the guy, basically the dude that was fighting was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm not gonna do that.
And then you have like Ark and Land, like these are a bunch of fucking idiots.
Yeah, and so no one makes it, and the Archimandrite is just sitting there alone in a hallway, and she ends up getting possessed by the demon, and then killed by the Blood Angel, which was really fucking cool.
That was
unrealistic.
Really cool. Yes. Like fucking stabs it in the neck and apparently shoves a bunch of grenades in her.
Yeah, it was
like,
cool.
what? Okay.
The Blood Angel was one of my favorite characters. Did enjoy him.
So I really liked him. What I didn't like is like the random like ex machina of like, oh, well, Ark and Land figured out that by doing these 3 things that are super basic fixes everything. I was like,
well,
okay.
It was temporary.
But temporarily.
Yeah.
For temporarily, I become a god. All right, cool.
So the demon's still alive. The Emperor comes out, fights a bunch of people. The demon beats the shit out of the Emperor and the demon turns himself into a sword.
Wait, turn himself into a sword?
Yeah, you don't remember this? Like the demon.
I remember him turning into he like
stabs.
Well, I thought was like the blood from. I honestly thought the blood from the Emperor was gonna make like the special sword that is in like 40k that is supposed to. Well, at the end of the heresy that is used against the Emperor.
Potentially. Okay. So this is what I understood from it. The Emperor gets stabbed by a sword.
He does get stabbed by a sword.
And
like, all the way through, and he's a human. Remember this.
The demon like tries to possess him. And then the Emperor removes the sword and then stabs Ra with the sword. And then it's like, run.
And Raw runs away. Like, okay, master. And then like
Yeah.
Raw becomes this random fucking demon thing in the webway by himself.
Yeah, Ra's like running through the webway for all eternity. It seems like, this is what I understood. The Emperor could not actually defeat that demon.
No.
Because the demon's purpose was to beat the Emperor.
Yeah.
And so he needed Ra to just remove the demon from play by just like leaving. And the demon was like imbued in the sword.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't know the sword. Trainwreck reached out to me. I was supposed to message him back. I forgot.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, he was like, "Did you recognize that sword?" I did not. I don't know. Like, is there?
I'm assuming it's the sword that is given to
Taurus?
I think. Well, doesn't what's his face? Doesn't Gilman have it now? And 40K?
That's the only sword that I know about. So if that's the sword, that's the sword. But like, how does the Emperor get it to give it to Gilman? I'm assuming it's still like impaled in Raw as he's running around the webway.
Just impaled and running.
Holy shit!
I know Raw didn't fall. He's just running around with the sword impaled through his fucking body. The Emperor's like, yeah, that guy's fucking fine.
You go to a bar. Sir, do not even bring up the fact I have a sword. I know. Trust me. I feel it all the time.
It's not a fucking big deal, you bitch.
Jesus Christ. Everyone always told me I've got a sword in my stomach.
No one ever asked me how the sword is doing in my stomach. It's fucking fine.
Yeah, I don't. That part was a little confusing to me, but from what I gleaned from it, it's like Ra needed to lead the demon away from the Emperor. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to you?
Yeah.
The Emperor leaves, and they need to shut down the webway because they lost. They lost the battle. So, like, the Webbreak project is donezo. So the Emperor shut it down, and the tunnel collapsed. And the last scene we have is of Ra running through the webway.
Sword impaled.
Yeah. That's it. There's really not a lot more to the ending. I don't understand the sword part. Maybe it comes into play later. That would be cool.
Rankings. Enjoyment and importance of the heresy, though.
10 and 10 for me.
It's a 10 for importance?
Yeah. I mean, you literally have the Emperor fighting to protect the webway, which is what Magnus caused.
Enjoyment, I say 9. It's very, very good.
Piece of shit.
For importance of the heresy, though, I think importance-wise, it's only like a 7.
Really? I mean,
it doesn't do a whole lot, right?
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, like, you don't know the Emperor started on the throne, so you could end with the Emperor not being on the throne. I'm going to be really disappointed if, like, the next time we see the Emperor, he's on the throne, and then I'm going to be like, why?
Yes.
So, I don't know.
Yeah,
you could.
We're also
no one important dies.
Yeah, no one important dies. Like, no, like, big, like, plot changes. Like, who else does it fucking show up at the end of this or anything like that?
Yeah, the webway is no longer a thing.
Yeah. We were requested for the results of the RTT.
I got 4th place. Fucking Evan.
You
Almost
did.
got there. So me and another guy I knew, we played first round. I beat him. And then he won his next 2 games, and I had a loss and a win. So we ended up with a 2-1 record, but he had ended up scoring more points, which I am totally okay with. Evan's a great guy. He
was really cool.
He actually played Dylan the second round.
So
which is what really killed.
I played the guy that got 2nd and 3rd, and second to last, because I got last. Found out I handicapped myself. I actually think if I would have played my army correctly, I would have actually won the last game. But hey, shit happens.
Yeah.
You got best painted army though.
I won best painted army. I don't know how it happened. I mean, no one else had like amazingly painted.
Yeah, there's
stuff.
several armies that like weren't even fully painted. Like the guy that got second, his army wasn't even fully painted.
Yeah, that's how guy.
Yeah, and he like goes to like GTs and shit. So I was
Yeah, I've seen
surprised
him
that
at
his army
GTs.
wasn't.
Multiple times, yeah. Yeah, I think it was a fun time though. I had a blast.
It was I had a good. I don't know. I found out during that like Grey Knights aren't actually that fun to play.
They're not fun to play. I don't know why you keep thinking they're fun to play. I don't know whoever told you that. They were lying to you. They're honestly, they're so boring to play. You should just play my Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns are so much more fun.
I think they would be. I'm still doing World Leaders next, though. I think they're actually going to be a lot of fun because they do what I want to do. I want to just fucking kill things.
Yeah, but you have to get them there first. I think it's going to be really hard.
So, by the leaks. Okay, so recording got fucked up. I told you about the 2 inch things. You said you had a question for me. Let's go.
No. I didn't hear the 2 inches things. It's how
really?
big?
Okay.
2 inches?
So there is a HQ that gives an extra 2 inch movement.
Yeah.
Within a 6 inch aura.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that character is supposed to have a 9 inch movement. And the exalted things, the 8 bound, are supposed to have, I think, also 9 inches. So you're looking at 11 inches. 11 that's pretty inches
good. Charge? So do they have extra to their charges?
So in the blood type thing, you can get +1 to advances and +1 to charges.
So the biggest thing I have with that is like, if that's your entire thing, you still are going to go around like getting shot.
Yeah. I mean, well, also what's in there, I mean, Aaron has wings, so assuming he has fly, right? He probably has pretty decent movement. My idea is you just fucking throw him in there, do some shit. I think you get the blood type things from like things dying, including yourself. So I mean, and he has a revive.
If you have the points, yeah.
Yeah, on 8 wounds. So like, it might be. I think they might actually be decent.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, think the concept of like 40 Mechanicum infantry units. You're gonna walk right into the open zone, and then you're gonna take like 100 shots right to the face. Probably.
Yeah,
more.
I think what you have to do is you have to bring the jackals, because if you get points for like,
dude, put them all in transports.
That and transport. So I think like if you get points from your things dying, right? You throw out like if the jackals are 7 points a model, couple groups of 20, you move them out, let them die. Like it doesn't matter. Like you're gonna have like everything else back on your objectives, so you're holding your objectives. You let those things die easy, like not a big deal. You get points for that. And then you just use your fucking points for the bigger shit and you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think the way I would do it is put them all in rhinos. Get that move up. They'd have to pop the rhinos, and then you have advance, or you have.
I think it matters if you can get the 8 bound in them.
If you can get advance and charge.
Yeah, if you get the advance, I think I feel like they should have advanced and charge, like
or a warlord trait, or a relic. I don't think they're gonna do an army wide because then the white cards would be like, "Hey, bro."
Yeah, but like the thing is, like, I mean, yes, but that was also like one of the first codexes, right?
Yeah.
At least with.
I would like to.
They don't have shooting.
To do it. Yeah. I would like to see them have a way to do it. I don't think it should be army wide. At least like a warlord trait or a relic where you can say like that unit is going to advance and charge this turn. They're going to get +2 to their movement, +1 to their advance, and +1 to their charge.
It's a lot of movement, and I mean
you're going to get up there.
Their whole thing is about getting in combat and killing you.
Yeah, and you move 9 inches.
Yeah.
So like
I think the one that does suck is Angron doesn't ignore like wound caps. I think that's bullshit.
Yeah. If you get him in combat with anything else, though, it's probably just gonna die. I would assume.
Yeah, like I would find like if he doesn't ignore invuln saves, like sure, whatever. But wound caps, he's supposed to be the number one fucking fighter. Like he should be able to kill things.
Yeah, he. Sorry, can't kill Abaddon.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
I tried to mute in time, but I failed.
Failed really hard.
Yeah, so yeah, the fact he can't kill Abaddon in a turn, come on.
It's silly. I mean, he's a fucking Primarch.
Yeah.
A demon possessed Primarch.
Well, I think Abaddon in general is like a bad comparison. Abaddon, I think,
he's
is like the
broken.
most broken fucking unit in the game right now. So,
agreed.
My thoughts.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I hope Angron gets some play.
I mean, if he's at 360 points, I think he has to, right?
I think they got to
drop it.
And
if you can revive him,
if you can revive him, that's nice. But like, yeah, I just like that's so expensive, and he's just gonna get shot if he doesn't have phase capping, which I hope they don't do for Angron. That would suck. So
I don't
bad.
think he does, and I mean he's probably not obscurable, but still,
I see that he doesn't have a demon save, which is pretty nasty. Like you go up against Hammer.
Yeah, I don't.
It's rough.
They haven't mentioned he is supposed to have a 2-up save.
2-up, 4-up.
Yeah, 2-up, 4-up, and like
yeah.
I think that's fine.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it sucks for like hammerheads and stuff like that, but like, how many hammerhead type things are there?
Yeah, that's fair. There's really not a lot of ignore invuln.
And say like you revive him on like turn 4, like that's pretty fucking scary to have on turn 4 when assuming like most of your army's dead.
You can also revive him like
at 8 wounds too.
9 inches away from somebody. So like if you get lucky,
assuming you have the blood ties where you get a plus like 1 charge, like
you should be able to 8 on the dice.
Yeah.
8 on the dice is not terrible to hope for on rerolls, but you're never gonna make it.
No, I'm gonna roll 2 4s.
Yeah. Well, that's I'm excited for him. I can't wait to play against them. I hope you.
Yeah,
come.
I'm supposed to have Karn being delivered. Like it should already be here.
That's exciting. I'm glad you realize that Grey Knights are terrible to play. They're so boring.
They are, and it sucks because like. I think what sucks is I've just put so much money into them, and yes, they are boring. Because they do nothing well. Like, even like melee, like they're supposed to be good at melee, but everything's damaged to like every 2 or 3. And with like armor contempt, or like most things are like higher in toughness, where I'm like, okay, cool, I'm hitting on fucking 5 still, great.
Yep, and you compare that to like Sanguinary Guard.
Yeah, it sucks. I do think World Eaters would be a lot more fun. And then after I do World Eaters, I'm going to do fucking Tyrannid, so it's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our review of the Master of Mankind.
Yes. So. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let us know what you think of the book as well. Hit us up on the Discord. You find that pinned to our Twitter at Heresy Lodge. We also have some cool merch. I will have that in our show notes to go look at. You can find us on YouTube at The Heresy Lodge. And you can email us at theheresielodge@gmail.com. For those in America, hopefully you guys had a good Thanksgiving. And we'll be back next week with our preview. Oh, God. Of the book I'm least looking forward to. Shattered Legends.
Yeah, and if you guys are confused on where Garo is, we've already previewed that one before Vengeful Spirit. So that is.
Oh my God, they had 2 anthologies back to back. That's fucked up.
Oh yeah.
GW do better. All right, guys. Hopefully you had a Thanksgiving. Have a good one.